recording this, and so like we hope that we can push this out to a broader audience. So I'm going to give you the full deal, and I recognize that there are only a few people here, and I'm thankful that you're here this afternoon. So the first thing I want to touch on, and we're communicating this as well, but you kind of get the first conversation about this on October the 5th and October the 8th. We are doing early release days. October the 5th is for teachers to be planning for the second quarter together. And so we're dismissing school at, I believe, 12:30 on October the 5th. Students will need to leave the building at that point. Like, all teachers are going to be in service. And so they can't treat it as a normal day and stick around until 3:30 or 4 or even 6 o'clock. They need to be exiting Crosstown at dismissal time. And so that's super important. And then October the 8th, teachers are required to have their grades in before we start fall break. And so we are dismissing early on October the 8th as well. And again, students will need to leave and start their fall break beginning, I believe, at noon on the 8th, which is the Friday before fall break. And so super important information. Everybody is a little bit frazzled at this point, students and teachers. And so having that extra couple of hours on the 8th to kind of get started with fall break is going to be good for everyone. And so it's been a good first 9 weeks, though, for sure. It's my pleasure to introduce two people to you today. Dr. David Anderson, our Dean of Students, is going to be talking about culture at Crosstown, and there are certainly great points of pride and some areas where we can improve, and he's going to be speaking to that a little bit. And then Mr. Dion Jordan is in charge of our Title I operations and is going to be giving you an overview of Title I and talking about all that it encompasses and how we try to use those funds to provide support for students at Crosstown. So with that, I'm going to take my own face off the screen and turn this over to David Anderson. David?
All right, let me say good evening to everyone. Glad to be here. And I hope I'm not, if you can, look like my screen is breaking up just a little bit. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, great. All right, just let me say thank you again for tuning in and zooming in this evening. And just want to touch bases just with a few things culturally. Let me say, again, I think we've had a great start to the year. And I think our students are doing pretty well. We do have a couple of areas that I'm just going to name three tonight that we want to focus on, that I'm going to need your help. And then here's another thing, parents that are tuned in today, if you would help share this with others, I think this will be great as well, as we're working to try to make the best of these things. I'm going to, if I can, just share the screen. I don't have a large presentation, but just want to share just three areas that we want to work on here. One, these are some of the areas that are that we've been focusing on lately, and parents, again, will need your help to make sure that we are able to continue to do just a good job with the ability to maintain a healthy culture. Electronic devices have come up, and here's the reason why. We want to create a universal focus in the classroom, particularly. And so we have really harped upon our electronic device policy. Some of your students may have had some response to it. Because it does allow for the teacher to ask for the phone. So we're not taking the phone, we're going to ask for the phone if the student has it out during the classroom time. And so be clear, it does not take away their ability to use the cell phone at the school, but it does take away the ability to use it during the classroom time. We were doing this as a response to some of the struggles of the misconceptions that can happen in the classroom as students will have their phone out. You have some students who are doing the right thing, maybe checking the time, maybe checking the weather, so on and so forth. But others boy, have just gone, into other things. So we want to make sure that we keep a focus in the classroom. And so what we've done is we've said to students in the policy, if you have your electronic device out, what happens at that time, the teacher is going to ask for it. Now, if the student does not cooperate with the teacher, then they're being sent to my office or a member of my team, the student support team, and then we're going to call you all as parents and guardians, and they're also going to have a in-school suspension as well. And so we are serious about the policy, and it's about respect in the classroom. We want teachers and students to be able to work together, but we want students to be able to learn without the distractions. And we would like for teachers to be able to teach without the distractions. Again, they're able to use these devices, when we're having breaks, in between classes, in the lunchroom, any other time other than when classroom instruction is going, or if we are making a general announcement where everybody needs to be focused in, we're going to also ask them to do that. Now, the electronic device policies are also inclusive of AirPods. And so we're saying the same thing that we're saying with cell phones. We're also saying the same things with their AirPods. And so in the classroom experience, we want them to remove those devices as well. And so we want to have just a clear learning experience. And again, the same type of violation goes with that as well. One additional piece that is added to the electronic device policy, as we try to work through this as well, are laptops. We have our wonderful Mr. Scott Holcomb at our school, who just does a wonderful job with all of our technology and electronics. And one of the things that will keep our network healthy, as well as allow us to be able to monitor appropriately, is keeping the devices that we have distributed the main device and the only device. And so those are the iPads that we've been, and so those are the learning tools that our students will work on and learn on. And so if a student is bringing laptops, we don't want them using those laptops in the school, and particularly on the network as well. And so we have these wonderful iPads that we distributed as well. And so those are the electronic device policies that we wanted. So parents, please, we need your help. And again, I'd say, and I think those that are on here, your students are probably already knocking it out of the park in a good way. But if you would spread the word as to the why, it's not to torture our kids. It's not to cause pain to our kids, but it's to allow a more successful learning experience for all of the school. And this is just a complete cultural decision that we're making. And that's inclusive, universal, all classrooms, all learning spaces that we're trying to do here at Crosstown, okay? So that is our electronic policy. That's a new one that has been getting a lot of response as of late, and we hope, and for the most part, again, our students have done well. So they've adapted to it well, and we hope that will continue to be the case with your help and your participation as we make this flow, okay? So we have our electronic device policy, but the other thing that we've been pushing that you may have gotten emails about are our tardy policies, and that's inclusive. And you may have seen language like detention, or for some, you may have had language such as an overnight suspension. So let me just take a few minutes really quickly, and I don't want to take up all the time. I just want to move swiftly. And I'm always available later on for questions, emails, phone calls, whatever the case may be. I'm always available as well. But let me just walk through this real quickly. We are asking for people to be on time. So the students need to be in the classroom at least by 8 o'clock. And so not in the school and not in the building, but in their classrooms at 8 o'clock. Being out of the classroom or not in the classroom by that time, the course is going to get a tardy. And those tardies add up. And so once you get to 4, you serve a detention. 4, you serve a detention. And then once you serve a detention, every tardy after that adds a detention. We're doing this to curb the tardies that are happening in our school. Now, not only does it speak to the tardies at the top of the day, but it also speaks to the tardies that are, also it speaks to the tardies that are per class. And so if students are late in the middle of the day, then they're counted tardy as well. Now, let me say a couple of things as it relates to tardies. One, as parents and students, if there is a valid reason while a student is late, there can be an excused tardy. And so it does not account toward a detention. And so I would encourage, one of the big things that we've been finding out as we meet with parents, as we meet with students, that communication is the key. And oftentimes communication may not be clear as it relates to what a student has experienced, particularly on the way to school, or something may happen. You can always email, send a message to Ms. Sarah Stockwell, or send a note to Ms. Sarah Stockwell at the front desk as well, and we'll make those adjustments appropriately. There are times that we do get clarification on tardies, and so parents, there are times because it adds up in the system, you're going to receive the email, so have no fear. We are willing to work through with you as it relates to, you may have some unusual circumstances, and we're not insensitive to that, but we're going to make sure that those are clearly communicated, and we'll try to do the best that we can to try to make that work for you and your student. Once a student gets a detention, though, it's very important that the student does attend the detention, because not attending the detention, the implications go higher. You have to make that detention up, and then there is an additional detention inclusive of an overnight suspension. Now, the overnight suspension simply says this, that we're sending the kid home at the end of the day, like normal, and the student will return the next day, but the student is returning with you, parent, you guardian, so that we can have the conversation to see what is going on. And so it's not meant to be, an evil tool, something that is cumbersome, but we do need to have the conversation to see what is going on. So that allows us to be able to have that conversation. But be clear, an overnight suspension, if a student does receive that, cannot return into the classroom without the parent or guardian being with them to sign off after they've had a conversation with either myself or a member of the student support team, okay? So to the best of our ability, we wanna make sure that we are communicating if there are some needs when it comes to tardies as it relates to this, okay? And so again, once they hit those 4, we're having those detentions, unless it's an unusual week, are on Mondays from 3 to 3:45. It is important for the student to attend that. Now, if a student is not there that day in attendance at all, that student, of course, is not skipping, and they will be able to make it up on the next Monday, okay? So we have the electronic devices, we have the detention as it relates to tardies, and so on and so forth. The last thing I just want to hit on, and I'll quit for this evening as it relates to this. And again, I would love to be able to talk through some things if you will so love to. But the last one is this, the concourse. We want to make sure that we are respecting all spaces, not only in the floors of the first floor, the 4th floor, and the 5th floor of the actual school, but we want to holistically have respect for the building at large, for this virtual community, for this vertical community that we're in. And so we want to make sure that we are doing the best we can, and that's inclusive of our students. So parents, several things. One, the concourse is not necessarily a A babysitting club is not just the leave the student there club. We do know that our students have the wonderful opportunity to leave the Crosstown school building and go into the beautiful community and to be able to study, to be able to hang with friends, to be able to eat, to be able to chill out. However, and y'all, my lights in my office are shut down, so don't worry about this. But however, we do need everybody to be responsible and respectable. And so we're asking several things. One, parents, to the best of your ability, pick your students up as soon as you can. We really don't want students just hanging out for the sake of hanging out. The second thing is, if students are there, we're asking students, number two, to stay at least on the 4th floor down. And so in other words, the highest floor that we want our students on is on the 4th floor. And they can go down from there. We don't want students on the 5th floor, the 6th floor, the 7th floor. We continue to have businesses. We have individuals that are living in the building. We don't want to be a nuisance or a disturbance to those individuals as well. So we want to make sure that we are 4 down is what we're asking for our students to do. We're asking for cleanliness and for those to clean up after themselves. Business is happening. People have businesses to run. And so we want to make sure that we are doing our part, and each student is doing their part to make sure that the space is clean. So when they're done eating or snacking or whatever they're doing in those areas, that they do not trash the place. And so we're making sure that kids are acting appropriately. This is not the time to get caught up in a corner with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever the case may be. This is not that place. We don't want to do that. And I know we have a lot of wonderful couples at our school, and your student may be in a relationship. Don't say they ain't. They may be in one. There's a lot of relationships around here. However, this ain't the time to be booed up. This ain't the time to be on the couch. And parents, we are noticing that. Security team is noticing that. The video cameras are noticing that. We don't want to do that in the building, okay? Horse playing, body slamming, DDTing, drop kicking, slapping, punching, biting, and scratching. We don't want any of that to happen in the area as well. And so this is not the wrestling match. And so I'm saying this because parents, it's happening, and school leadership at large is doing the best that we can to be advocates for our students, to allow them to keep this space and have this space. However, we don't want that to be threatened. So we're going to need everybody. So every parent, every student to do their part to make sure that we are able to maintain in a respectful way. But again, one thing that can help us is don't allow your students just to linger. So if you can pick them up near the time the school ends, by all means, come on and pick them up. Don't leave them here 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, sometime 8 o'clock at night if you can, okay? And so that's very important as we maintain this space in our culture. And let me just apply our community at large. I believe for the most part, we've had a tremendous kickoff for this year. We've had great response, even parents, we've had great response from you as it relates to your responding and your response to emails and calls and behavior issues. So I applaud you, and I do appreciate the cooperation as we collaboratively continue to go forth and make Crosstown the best place. Hey, together we win. We believe that we can do it. That's all that I have, unless there are any. I'm not sure if we're taking questions right. Jen, are we taking questions right now? Are we taking questions later? Oh, you can drop them in the chat, okay?
If anybody has any questions, and I do have everybody muted just to keep background noise to a minimum, but if you would like to ask anything, you can certainly raise your hand or wave at me and I can unmute you, or you could put it in the chat, or we can move on to Mr. Jordan if no one has any questions.
If easier, we could also answer all the questions at the end.
That's true. Susan, I see your question about, is the school having internet issues? I am the least qualified person to talk about that. I don't know, Chris, if you are still available to comment on that. We have recently, there you go.
Yeah, the school is having some internet issues. it's a large part of it, and I'm actually in the tech office right now. So Mr. Holcomb just left, or else he could answer that question. But yes, like we have doubled the size of our school since we were last here. And so we're having some issues with the number of access points and bandwidth. And as we move, forward into a heavy video, heavy consumption mode, yes, we're having some issues. And so we're looking at, we've already ordered additional access points to solve some of those issues. And Mr. Holcomb is, like, we went from this means nothing to me, but I can repeat it, a 500 meg pipe to a 1 gig pipe. So we doubled the size, but our consumption seems to be greater than that. And so we're looking at upping that again and potentially doubling the size of our pipe coming in to speed up the internet. So yes, we know it's an issue and we're working to resolve it.
Yeah, we know that students have had some issues with that. And we are, teachers are aware of it and hopefully making some adjustments. But we are definitely aware of it, Teresa, and are definitely working on that. Any other questions for Dr. Anderson? And if not, we will move on. Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. We appreciate it. You're welcome to hang out, or, go hang out in the concourse with all your friends. Mr. Jordan, we are going to turn it over to you to talk us through our Title I information.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good evening. Thank you, Ginger. Good evening, everyone. And also thank you, Dr. Anderson. It would be remiss of me to not say how much I hate going after Dr. Anderson's lively presentations. And I hope I don't bore you to death with my slightly boring Title I presentation, but I think the information is just as important. But thank you again, Dr. Anderson. So I'm going to just share my screen and let me know if you're unable to see what I'm sharing here.
We're good.
Okay, let me, it's over there. I just want to start the slideshow. There we go. Are you also good to see this?
Yes.
All right, so this will be so we have an annual Title I meeting. I just want to kind of preface this conversation. We'll continue to have annually Title I meetings to go over our Title I program, what exactly Title I is, how that relates to your child or your student, what are your rights and responsibilities as parents under the law, and then how we can all work together to provide a better educational experience for all of our learners, not just those that are Title I, so irregardless of your Title I status. So Title I is a federal program, and ideally the funds that are allocated to schools come from an allocation, and that process, that algorithm that they use is 100% around who qualifies for free or reduced lunch. And so it's just really important that as you're filling out the application process, that you are in fact indicating whether or not your child qualifies for free or reduced lunch, because that factors into the funds that we utilize to provide direct supports for those students in a myriad of ways, right? So that can come in providing additional teaching staff as full-time, level 3 or higher teachers in terms of their qualifications under T and Compass. That can go towards paraprofessionals. That can go towards Newsella, some of our learning management tools, which I'll talk about that we're using this year. So that can go towards a lot of things, and we really take a holistic look at how we can best benefit each of our learners and what the appropriate and respective programs or people contracts that we need to engage in order to provide those services. So this year, our preliminary allocation is roughly 100,000, it was like 98,000. We did receive excess funds from last year in an amount of about 22,000, and all of our Title I funds will go towards contracted services. So we've hired 3 paraprofessionals who will help across different classes in math and English language arts. And I'll talk more about our school improvement plan. This is where these folks will appear in that school improvement plan as we review our data that's NWEA MAP data, which is based on how students perform in English language arts, as well as in mathematics. And we review that data based on grade level trends. We review that data across race and ethnicity, gender, whatever it may be. We look at the data in a whole lot of different ways so we can, again, make the most informed decision, so we can provide the best and the most adequate supports for all of our learners, and not, again, just Title I learners. And if you have questions, please just take notes of your questions. I'll take them at the end. I know that some folks may have questions as I'm kind of going through this slide. So which students in our school participate in the Title I program? Like I said, every single student, whether your student receives or qualifies for free and reduced lunch, these funds are used to support every student. We here at Crosstown, as a competency-based and project-based school, our goal is to meet every single learner where they are and to provide them with the highest quality education so that they are lifelong learners. And so this does, in fact, connect to our mission and our vision, as well as our 4 pillars. And I'll talk more about our 4 pillars as we kind of get down the slides: project-based learning, competency-based learning, diverse by design, and relationship-driven. All these things go into our Title I school improvement plan because we believe that is our recipe for success. And we will have our first graduating class. But again, all of these funds, and again, the funds that the way that we're using the funds this year is through contracted services. So those are going to be paraprofessional supports. So additional teaching staff, ideally in the classrooms. I forgot to mention this also previously. Last year, we purchased Newsela, News ELA as well. And that provides, that's a learning management tool that works alongside Canvas, which is our learning management system. And ideally what it does, or its primary function, is to provide what we call differentiated readings or differentiated work or learning experiences for students across disciplines, with the exception of mathematics. We use a different software for math, but we didn't use Title I funds for that particular program. But again, for Newsela, what it does is if the teacher is teaching economics and they would like to pull a reading, the way that this works in meeting the needs of the learner is that we want to meet that learner at their, what we call their Lexhouse score or their reading score. And that's a range from like 500 to 1,000, right? And so we'll get those data results from Newsela, or we'll get those data results from our NWEA map test, or we can get those results or the data on each individual student from the end of course exams that they take across subjects. And then that'll kind of give us an indicator or a sense of where that student falls. And then we can use that technological tool to create readings that are at that student's level. So the vocabulary, where the student is in terms of comprehension or analysis or knowledge synthesis. And then the system will work to learn the student through the algorithm, and then it will produce articles at that student's Lexhouse score, and then it'll kind of push them up as they go through and take quizzes, and they master varying skills. So I can talk more about that and how that's being used in classrooms, again, at the end, if you have any specific questions. So how does this benefit my students? And I kind of mentioned the Crosstown 4 pillars. Again, every single student benefits from our Title I programs, irregardless of whether or not that student receives or qualifies for free and reduced lunch. Again, as a charter school, this is in our mission, our vision. It's in our school and family compact, which is a part of our Title I programming and something that we have to do under the law. But again, going back to our 4 pillars, we are a project-based learning school, which ideally is putting students into a position where it's a student-centered pedagogy, or it's a student-centered learning or teaching approach that we take that really puts the learning in the hands of the student so they can engage in real-world experiences. And a lot of our projects require them to really think about what they're doing, the work that they're doing in their communities or the communities that they come from, and then how those things tie to their disciplines. As a competency-based learning school, one of the core tenets of competency-based learning is meeting learners where they are and providing them with supports at that level, and then pushing them up across, and then pushing them to the next level based on skill mastery and not seat time. We are a relationship-driven school. We have a highly robust advisory program, and all of our teachers are working to ensure that they know our students from a social emotional level, but also that they understand our students' academic performance so that they can work with students to make the most informed decisions about their learning experience, as well as their learning arc across 4 years. And then we're diverse by design. We work very hard, and I think Ginger works the hardest to ensure that we are attracting students that are not just from a singular geographic location or a zip code, but that we're attracting students from all across Memphis to ensure that our student body is highly representative of the racial and ethnic or socioeconomic demographics of Memphis. And then the last thing is Canvas. Again, that's our learning management system. We do rely heavily on education technology to ease the burden of teaching and learning from our teachers, but also it allows for us to really create a student-centered approach where we can put the learning in the hands of the students, where they can see their performance across varying classes. They can also save their work. And again, they can receive very, very, very narrowly tailored and curated supports using something, again, like Newsella, where the teacher can really make adjustments in accordance with the students or a learner's Lexile score. School Parent Compact, which Ginger just worked with the group of parents to review. Each year we review the School and Family or School and Parent Compact. You can use those interchangeably, school parent, school family. I think school family is probably more appropriate because parents or guardians can look different. But ideally what this is an agreement, right? We say, this is who we are. This is what we're going to offer to your child. And then the community says, great, this is what we think about that. Let's work together to create a plan of action and a compact that really sets out how we can do this appropriately and effectively. And so ensure that we're able to fully follow that. And again, those are updated each year. We've had this compact since inception, 2018. And if you would like to read that, you can contact us and we can have that sent out to you so you can read it in its entirety, provide feedback, or if you need any clarity, you can always reach out and ask. And all documents relating to Title I are fully accessible. We want to be fully transparent. That's how the system works. And also that's what the law says. How can I be involved in my students' education? Again, talking about transparency, we want to be transparent about the budget, transparent about the process. If you really want to be involved, definitely reach out to your learner or your students, your child's teacher, and ask what they're working on in class, or if you can visit their classroom. I know we're in COVID, so maybe that will look different, but please reach out to teachers and ask about projects or project goals, how you can be involved. There have been parents who have been project partners because they're artists, or they're interested in art, or they're in healthcare, or they're medical professionals. And so they've also lent their expertise and their skills to support students in project-based learning. And then how you can support me and the rest of our school improvement planning team, which I think includes Chris, Ginger, and David, and Dr. Anderson, excuse me. But you can join the school improvement plan. And the school improvement plan is a plan that we work on each year. And we review, and I think I mentioned this at the top, at the outset, we review all of our data trends from 2019, which is 2019-2020, which is the first year that we did this. That's end of course exams across our math and English language arts courses. Excuse me, I'm just gonna take a sip. Our math and English language arts courses. And we review that data again across school-wide, grade levels, student groups. And within student groups, gender, race, ethnicity, so forth and so on. So we can figure out where we can fully, where we need to actually probably create more intentional supports for certain students or certain racial or ethnic groups, but also so we can look at those trends and see how we are performing as a school. We also collect data from the NWEA MAP test. Those tests are aligned to TN Common Core standards or Common Core standards more generally. And so they are rooted in a lot of the learning that students are doing. So we pull data from there as well. And then data from the classroom. We then, after we've collected that data, we prioritize goals and needs based on what we see. So it may be something, this year we've prioritized discipline and absenteeism. We've prioritized college and career readiness because we have our first graduating class, but also we want to be reflective on our internship program. We have also prioritized, obviously, math and English language arts. And so I generally create 4 different subgroups that will work to create a plan of action. This committee must include students and parents and board members and community members. Those are folks in the concourse, folks in the larger community. We want to just create a long list of everyone to be involved. The more the merrier. If you're in this room and you want the proverbial room and you want to be involved, please reach out to me. I would love for you to be a part of that work, because that really gives you a sense of what we're doing. Because again, you're looking at all the data. And for instance, to highlight, Dr. Anderson's doing really great work last year. Our suspension rate was 10.57%. And the year previous to last year was 10.57%. Last year, it was 0.05%. So, I mean, talk about like a 10% decrease in suspension. And I know that number will go down this year as well. So we can look at those trends. Again, we can look at absenteeism or chronically out of school. So we can figure out, we can get to a root cause. We also go to get to that root cause, we go through a 5 whys protocol to figure out why it is, our students are not, 50% of our, and this is just hypothetical, why 50% of our students might be at below on their end of course exams when we want to move them to approaching or on target, right, for mastery. And so those are that's a lot of the data that we look at and we analyze. And then from there, we set a plan of action. So we work again with stakeholders, teachers, department chairs, parents, students, board members, administrators, again, like it's a very large group, as well as our federal programs coordinator. And so we work together to create a plan of action that's based on our root cause analysis. Once we've done that, we then enter the school improvement monitoring phase. So that's that third bullet, the SIP monitoring. So once we have our plan has been approved, we've gone ahead and said, we're going to spend this much money on contracted services, on our learning tool, or whatever it may be. We then have to monitor that plan, right? To ensure that we're meeting our goals, that we're doing what we're saying we're doing. If we're saying, hey, we're going to hire only level 3 or higher teachers as it pertains to their TBOS, Tennessee Value Added Assessment for educators, then that's what we need to be doing, right? And so if we're going to say we're going to do that, we need to have a plan of action to do that. If we're going to have professional learning communities to ensure that our teachers are receiving the professional development that they need to ensure that they are meeting the needs of every one of our learners, we need to also be sure that we're doing that. So we are going to enter the monitoring phase. We generally do that around November, December, where we start monitoring the plan, and then trying to figure out what we need to do if we're not meeting our goals or we're not meeting the needs of our learners to ensure that to make a pivot in our plan, perhaps, or things might be going well, right? And we're just, smooth sailing, which is the goal. We want to ensure that we are actually creating a good plan at the outset. So that's all I have. I don't want to take up too much of your time. That was a lot of information. And if you have any questions, I will take them now. And that's my contact if you want to reach out to me, but you can also access my contact information on the school website.
Thank you so much, Dion. Y'all have no idea. I mean, that was a lot of how the sausage is made for you guys as parents. But this is for us to get these funds, which is over $100,000 for us that we get to put into use at our school. It is a requirement that we share all this information with you. So we're really grateful to you guys for listening in and just being a part of that process that helps bring additional resources into our school. Okay, Dionysia has a question. Where do we find our students' NWEA results? Dion, can you speak to that?
Yeah, the data will not be made public for FERPA reasons. We want to be sure that we are not in any way just giving out information. If you want your student, your learners' information directly, you can reach out to their teacher and they can provide that for you. Or again, if you want to see all of the data in its entirety, legally, then you can join the SIP, the school improvement plan, and then you can review all the data for every single student.
Dion, the ILT email address is ILT at
crosstownhigh.org.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to drop this email address into the chat, Dionysia. This is the email address for the instructional leadership team, which Dion is a part of, and also Sam Stiles and Ryan Dixon. Sam Stiles does a lot of the work with looking at individual students' data. So, but if you send an email to this email address, they can get you your Corey's email address or his test results.
Yep.
Good question.
Yep. And that test is administered seasonally. I generally like to think about it seasonally.
All right. I think the next parent event that we will have, I don't think we have anything scheduled imminently, but one thing to kind of keep on your radar for the end of the semester, y'all know we used to have what we called Exhibition of Student Learning twice a year. We have changed what we call our end of semester 1 parent event to a prototype fair, just to indicate that the work in year-long projects is kind of at the halfway point. So we're at the prototypes phase. But we will have that the evening of December 16th, and that will actually be an in-person event, which will be very exciting. We actually get to have y'all come and see the work that students have been doing. I think we're going to have a musical performance, which is really exciting. So we will get that out in the newsletter soon, but you guys can go ahead and mark your calendars for December 16th. I'm actually not sure we have set a time yet. That will probably be around 5 or 5:30. But that will be our next parent event. And if no one else has any other questions, we will not keep you from your dinner and your lives for the rest of the evening. Again, thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate you guys being invested and engaged in the work that we're all doing at Crosstown High together. Everybody have a great night.